Simply Sugar-Free, 6 Simple Steps to Conquer Sugar Addiction. And it's a really a lovely book. It's full of recipes, and it's not just about eating. It's about exercise, and it's got all kinds of tips in it. And she's going to talk a little bit about it. But I do want to mention here, so Sue is an integrative nutrition health coach. And part of the reason why Sue even wrote her book is, and I don't know if you can see it or not. Let me see if I can get it closer to the camera. You know what I'm going to do? Hold on one second. I just want you to be able to see this. Okay. So you see, this is Sue today, and that was Sue before. So it was her journey of losing 52 pounds in 52 weeks at age 52. So I am going to turn it over to Sue now. Hold on one second. Sue, can you share a little bit about your story of sugar addiction and your journey?
Sure. So actually, I brought the life-size version of the old Sue to do a little flyby here because none of you knew me then. So I keep her around. It's very humbling actually to see, and it's very sad. So I think probably my whole life I was one of those people that was prone to sugar addiction, and I didn't really know that until one day when I was 52. I was standing at a retirement party at work, and I had yo-yo dieted my whole life, and I knew that I resorted to eating sweets when I was stressed or tired or even happy. I would just eat sweets. And I just decided on that day I was just going to take every ounce of energy that I had, and I was going to figure it out. And I did, lo and behold. And it actually started when a health coach, an integrative nutrition health coach, came to my workplace. I work a day job. And the first step she suggested was going from M&Ms to peanut M&Ms, because at least you would get some protein and fat that would help keep you full. And believe it or not, that was the first step that I took. And then I just started tackling a meal at a time, trying to figure out what were the foods that made me feel bad and tired and caused me to eat more sweets, and what were the foods that made me feel good. And at the end of the year, I had it figured out. And that was when I actually went to school to become a health coach myself, because I'm like, it didn't take money, it didn't take surgery. All it took was a little bit of education and a little hard work on my part, and I was able to unravel it. And I'm happy to be with you now, because believe it or not, I'll be 10 years sugar sober in December. And it is just so huge that after 52 years and then now 10 years not having sugar, that it's entirely possible. And that's the message I try to bring to people, is that if you take the right small steps, you can conquer a sugar addiction yourself.
Well, congratulations, Sue. That is amazing. 10 years. Oh, goodness. And so you understand the struggle with sugar, and you speak from experience. So, how can someone tell if they have an actual sugar addiction?
So sugar is a little bit like tobacco used to be, and alcohol, and all of these other addictive substances. And all of those are bad for some people. Well, they're bad for everybody. So that's why sugar is such a big brouhaha, is that everybody has too much. But there's a certain percentage of the population that is actually prone to become addicted to it. So if you give me a second, I'm going to turn into my nutrition nerd for a minute, because there's just a little bit of chemistry that if people understand, it will help them unravel their own story around sugar. So here comes just the quick chemistry lesson. And this is where I bring in my fake sugar molecules. So I bring in a red one representing fructose and a green smiley one representing glucose. So when we talk about sugar, like even the sugar in the frappuccinos and everything, when we think of sugar, we're thinking of the thing that has a molecule of glucose bound with a molecule of fructose, like table sugar, the things we sprinkle. They are bound together. So you've got always in table sugar, you've got a molecule of glucose and a molecule of fructose. Well, so why do I care, and why do I think you guys need to care? And it's because if you take glucose, for example, and I use a green ball, it's basically good for you. Like, you need a certain amount of glucose. It feeds your brain, your energy. You need it to run your body. You don't want too much, and you don't want the refined glucose, because that's what spikes your blood sugar. And every time you spike your blood sugar, you're telling your body to store fat. You really don't want to do that. Fructose is the other half, and it's the half that's sweet. So if I bring back glucose for a minute, glucose is really not very sweet. So it's like pasta is glucose, all of those other carbohydrates are glucose. But when you add the fructose, that's where the sweet comes in. So I was addicted to only the sweet part, and that's why I like people to try to understand the two parts, because not everybody is addicted to both, and it helps inform you with what you can have and what you can't have. So the problem with fructose is that in the caveman day, you really only got fructose through fresh fruit. That's where it comes. It's fruit sugar. And we didn't have that much. We had it right before winter, and we'd store a little bit of fat. It would save us through the winter, and that would be it. But these days, first off, we can have fresh fruit 365 days a year. Just, go to the grocery store and there's all kinds of fruit. But it's the processed fructose that is really causing the problem. And I'm sure you guys know that if you have 3 people in a room, the obesity epidemic is so bad right now. One person is going to be obese, one person is going to be overweight, and only one person is going to have a normal BMI. And a lot of that is driven by the processed fructose in everything. Like, did you hear recently McDonald's? They announced, we're taking high fructose corn syrup out of our hamburger buns. I was like, what? Who knew that there was high fructose corn syrup in your hamburger buns? And people become addicted to that. So fructose, the way the molecule is structured, it actually goes directly to your tongue, the sweet taste bud, and it just drops right in and goes straight to the reward center in your brain. Highly addictive. And the other problem is that your body doesn't know what to do with processed fructose. It goes into your system, but it's not metabolized like glucose. It goes directly, nonstop, to your liver. And what it does there is your liver stores a little bit, but what it doesn't need, it turns into fat in your liver. So you've heard of fatty liver disease. That's fructose. And then what it doesn't store in your liver, it stores around your liver and your other organs. So now you've got belly fat. And then if you still have some, it starts circulating as triglycerides or little droplets of fat in your blood. So people really need to understand that, because it helps you. You're going to have a list of the things that make you crazy, the things that make your brain turn into an addictive spin. And for some people it's going to be this, and for some people it's going to be this, and for some people it's going to be both. But that's the education I think people need to understand, because now that I know what I can't have, there's this whole world of food that I can have, and that's the beauty of the knowledge.
And so people do their best to avoid these sweets. And there's still some things that people do eat in moderation. Fruit's a good example of that. I think a lot of people are confused. Should I eat fruit? Shouldn't I eat fruit? But there's so much fiber in it. You really, it's good. And there's low sugar fruit too. Can you share some products that maybe, what are some other foods that have, we talked about a few of them, but some other hidden sugar items? What would you?
I think really you guys did such a great job. You stole the thunder out a lot of what I was talking about. What I really think I would like to focus on now is the fact that just because sugar is such a problem and prevalent and everywhere and can be addictive, not everything sweet is addictive. It's really this chemical thing. So, for example, and I have a sample here. A product that I like is these yogi teas. Now, not everyone, but if you look at the labels on yogi teas, some of them are sweetened with stevia. So stevia is an herb. It's grown in South America, and chemically it has nothing to do with glucose or fructose. It's a whole different thing. So like in these yogi teas, they've actually ground up the leaves of stevia plants and mix them in the tea bag. So it's not processed like, again, at Trader Joe's, at my Trader Joe's, they put out coffee and they put out these little white packages of stevia. But in these tea bags, they actually grind it up and they put it in with the tea. So if I want something that's a little bit sweet, I love their teas. And again, you have to read the label because they don't all have the stevia. But it can be a wonderful, just gently sweet treat. The other thing that can be helpful, if you like honey, so honey has kind of a health halo, and for many people honey is like a trade up because it has different, the things that are coming from the bee, and it's local and it's natural, so it does have some redeeming value. But if you're a sugar addict, no, it's half fructose, half glucose. So no, just no. If you're a sugar addict, no. So what you can have instead is a brown rice syrup, which you can get at Whole Foods. It comes in a jar, and it's pretty much the consistency of honey. So what you might have put honey in, you can put this in instead, and it's not going to trigger the addiction in a brain prone to addiction because it's all glucose. There's no fructose in brown rice syrup. So this is, go ahead.
No, I want you to definitely give some suggestions for people to wean off of sugar. Obviously, those two items might help. What else can they do?
The most important thing, so I have a process that I used, and it's what I use with clients, of 6 steps for weaning off of sugar. And it's like tying your shoes, and that's why I have a little shoe. Because what you really have to do is you have to deal with the chemical addiction, and you also have to deal with your behaviors, like I'm tired, I want a donut. So you have to deal with those behaviors. And the most important thing really is for people to start at breakfast, and you need protein. You really need about 20 grams of protein. And it doesn't matter really how you get it. You can have eggs, you can have a smoothie with protein powder. Generally we prefer Whole Foods, but there are many ways you can get that protein with breakfast. Because if you don't start your day off right, the whole thing just falls apart by lunchtime and you feel like a failure. So my first suggestion is to really focus on breakfast.
Yeah, I noticed you talk a lot about breakfast in your book, a lot.
Yeah, a lot of recipes.
Yeah, the other thing that intrigued me a little bit, because, it was a question I had, because sometimes I liked sugar and sometimes I didn't. But your chocolate chip cookie quiz. I thought that's a really good indicator. So tell us about that. I really do.
Yeah, so people want to know, how do I know if I'm one of those people prone to sugar addiction? And the thing is, sugar addiction, it really is based in the brain. And that's why I focus, a lot of health coaches, some of us focus on digestion and irritable bowel and autoimmune diseases, and mine is all focused up here in the brain because it's really an issue about dopamine and how the brain reacts to dopamine. So how do you know if you're a sugar addict? Well, one way is you can go out and you can Google Yale Food Addiction Scale. And there you're going to get a very, academic way of deciding if, in fact, you are or are not a food addict. But the simple way is just, how do you feel when you walk into a house and someone just baked chocolate chip cookies? And if you're willing to have a 1-hour conversation about the weather and going shopping and the latest movie that's out, you're probably not a sugar addict. But if you smell the hot chocolate chip cookies and that's all you can think about, you're probably a sugar addict.
I love that, Sue. I don't think it gets any simpler than that, really. And you know that trick when realtors are trying to sell a house, they put those baked goods in the oven to try and entice you. So, well, Sue, that was really informative. I so love when we can pick out these little things that help people really figure things out. And as our time goes on here with the Power Half Hour, we will be definitely jumping more into the subject of sugar, because obviously there's a lot of things that we can cover, and we would love to have you back on to talk about it. Would you share one item that just a takeaway that someone could perhaps use in their day-to-day?
So I would think, in addition to starting with breakfast, I walk an hour a day. And I don't do it because it burns calories. I don't talk about calories at all. Calories to me just don't matter. It's about keeping my brain in balance. And walking has been a huge thing for me because it's the way that I meditate, I listen to music, I have audiobooks, whatever. But that is a way of a good behavior. And again, it's not like running and it's hard to do. Anybody can do it. All you need is a pair of shoes. You can go anywhere. You can go anytime. I walk at work with friends. So my advice would be to walk an hour a day.
Thank you so much. Stay with us, because I'm going to make sure that we don't have any questions at the end. Hold on. Lori, how about you?
My action item is to actually look at your labels this week and see what sugar is in everything, from cereal to granola bars to pasta, sauces, whatever, anything we've mentioned here today, any of those things. But look at your labels this week. Women are recommended daily allowance for sugar is 6 teaspoons, which is 24 grams. So notice what you're taking in. For men, it's a little bit more. For children, it's a little bit less than that. And if you're shoving those darn juice boxes at your kids, you know, or the fruit snacks or whatever, you've pretty much done they're dealing with half of one of those. So their daily allowance. So just notice it and see how much sugar you're actually really taking in this week.
Thank you so much. Kimberly, how about you? What's your tip? Oh, unmute. Unmute.
Thank you.
There you go. Now we can hear you.
My tip this week is to just stop buying anything that has high fructose corn syrup in it. Top 3 things that come to mind are bread, ketchup, and cereal bars. Those are things that I never expected to find high fructose corn syrup in, but it's there. And there's a high fructose corn syrup free alternative, buy organic if you can. That's one of the first things I started doing when I started cutting back on sugar, and it's a good rule of thumb.
You know, that's true. And I just can't, you know, high fructose corn syrup, that's a whole nother subject, right? Because even when you see sugar on a label, it's not even sugar. 9 times out of 10, it's high fructose corn syrup. So that's, you know, we need to talk about that. Sue?
I want to come back just for a minute, because here's the deal. So with sugar, these are bound together, so it's always one-on-one. The issue with high fructose corn syrup is that it's more like a ball pit. So manufacturers can put 60-40, 80-20, 95-5. So the amount of fructose in high fructose corn syrup, which is what goes into sodas and a lot of other things, is not 50-50. So they've really stacked the odds against people in terms of the belly fat, the liver fat, and the addiction with high fructose corn syrup. So never, 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 never have it. End of commercial.
Very good. We will never, never, never have it, Sue. I promise. How about you, Dorothy?
Okay, so I would like to challenge people maybe to add a sweet vegetable. I find that when people start incorporating things like beets, carrots, winter squashes, sometimes suddenly it just takes the edge off of the craving for sugar, and instead you're getting a whole load of phytonutrients and health. So sometimes I find that that's really, really helpful, and it's also really delicious.
Perfect. I will do that for sure. How about you, Andrea?
I want to encourage people to try to include fruit in their diet more, and kind of just swap out when they normally would have sweets, maybe at after dinner. That's when a lot of people crave sweets, to have some fresh fruit and focus on what you can have versus what you can't have. And I think you'll find success there.
Thank you. And you know, fall is coming. It's going to be here next week, and I love the fall fruits and winter, you know, type fruits, because I don't know, I feel that they have more fiber in them. You know, I feel that summer fruits are like way too sweet and sugary for me, you know. I don't know, that's just my opinion, but I might be wrong. I have this gorgeous persimmon tree in my backyard, and I feel like it's full of fiber. I don't know, it's really good. So I want to thank all of you for being with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we thank you for joining us on the Power Half Hour, and we hope that you join us again next week. Now, once we finish with our shows, we do have them on our YouTube channel. You are always more than welcome to watch them on YouTube, and not only that, you can also comment there and comment on our public Facebook page. All of the coaches that you see here are part of the New Self-Health Movement, and we are monitoring all of those pages, and we'd be happy to interact with you and share whatever knowledge we have with you. That's what we're driven to do. So thank you so much for joining us.